What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of Interviewing the Affluent. My name is Kwame Barbour, and I am the founder and CEO of Affluent Clothing. We are a mission-based streetwear brand that promotes the idea that wealth is a matter of inspiration. While there are many different ways to describe affluence, one may believe that it all ties back to wealth and how we express our wealthiness. Affluential Clothing, however, would like to redefine this idea and showcase affluence as a mindset rather than a lifestyle. And through these interviews, we hope to expand the world's perspective on what the word wealth means. Joining us today for episode 6 of season 2, we're happy to introduce Mario Williams.
Oh, what up, everybody?
How we doing?
I'm good, bro. You?
Appreciate you being here today. I'm good, can't complain,
Thank you. Thank
Happy
you for
we-
the opportunity. Man.
Yo, happy we could finally get it done. For the people who don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So like Kwame said, I'm Mario Williams. I am currently a senior here at Fairfield University. I am a local to the area. Grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. A child of immigrants from Jamaica. A sports lover. Someone who loves healthcare. Helping people. Say a laid back kind of person.
Got you. You talk about your love for healthcare. What's your major and how'd you get involved in that field?
Yeah. So I started off Fairfield as a biology major. I had some changes due to academics and finances. And I actually had to change my major. So I will be graduating with a sociology, anthropology double major, with a minor in biology. But currently I'm in the process of applying for my MPH, which is a Master's of Public Health.
Okay.
So I'm looking to hopefully be accepted. I should be hearing back in a month, and being enrolled in hopefully a research-heavy institution, fall of 2023.
Nice, yo. Happy to hear it. Good luck with
Appreciate
that
it.
application process.
Yeah, man.
Tell
Thank
us
God it's over though. Like,
Facts. Tell us a little bit about your journey at Fairfield. Being a second semester senior, we almost out of here. You talk about going through that transition academically.
yeah. I'll give a little background. So my high school, I went to a predominantly white private high school, very similar to Fairfield University. However, it was very liberal arts based.
Okay.
So a lot of like reading classes, writing, literature, etc., social studies. So coming into Fairfield, with kind of like a major emphasis on like primary science classes, or like taking like bio and chemistry or bio and physics, like multiple sciences all together. Sometimes it felt like an overload where like I could probably excel in one of those courses,
Gotcha.
but I'd have to put the other on like a back burner, or like I gotta like relax with this one. And I didn't really find that balance until it was a little bit too late in the process for me, whereas like I was more so trying to catch up rather than like propel myself to the next level. But I met a lot of people, students and faculty alike, that were able to guide me, talk to me outside of the classroom and office hours, separate meetings. That was kind of able to let me know everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry about the pressure. Whatever your goal is in life, sometimes there's not always a direct path.
Right.
And if you still have the heart and drive to get to where you want to be, you'll get there. So that's kind of been like my path at Fairfield thus far, from like an academic standpoint.
Got you. And you talked about being the son of immigrants. What does that mean to you? How do you carry that with you in your everyday life?
My parents definitely made me the way I am today. I don't want to boast and brag. I would think that like I'm a very hardworking person. And I got that from my parents. I don't really see them miss work. Like whatever field of work that my parents are in, they take it very seriously. They're not very late for work. Something I guess I gotta still learn from them, because I'm constantly late to things. But also watching them, like they came to this country, like when they were old. You know what I'm saying? Like 1 year before I was born, they moved to this country. Like they were established adults. So I commend them a lot for like putting me in an environment where I was relatively safe. It was stable. They clearly put like academics first to allow me to land where I am today. So I kind of feel like I owe them
Okay.
in a sense of like appreciation, but I also know that like I'm coming from like a group of people or two individuals that are hardworking. So I need to make sure that whatever life choices I make now, like, will help my offspring. You know, propel them to excel higher than I could be, just like my parents try to do with me.
Most definitely. So with that being said, you know, if there's one value that you live by, what might that be?
One value that I live by. I have to say respect. Respect or loyalty.
Tell us about them both.
I feel like with respect, sometimes respect is often misunderstood as kind of being nice or kind. Sometimes respect can maybe come off the wrong way to some people as rude.
Okay.
But like when you have respect, or respect like as a value is like something that like everything's gonna be very straightforward with you, and you acknowledge that person as an equal, almost like as a human by nature, but you respect them enough, or you hold them to like a high regard, whereas like you want the best for them,
Right.
which is something that I feel like is lacking sometimes in society, because oftentimes like we talk down to people, maybe not intentionally, but just the way our vernacular is sometimes, that's how it is. So respect is definitely a big one, and loyalty. Those that started with you or stuck by you or showed an interest in you, feel like you need to keep them close, as a token of appreciation, but also like there's strength in numbers, you know. And while some people, you know, it's hard to drag them up with you, I've often seen or read success stories of people where you have like that one person that makes it out,
Right.
but has gave other people who never had the opportunity a chance to, you know, excel in their own lane. Example, LeBron James. Like, some of those other guys probably wouldn't be in the spot that they are today without the athletic ability of LeBron. But LeBron's loyalty to his community and his people have now, you know, basically started a friend group that are billionaires, but he was loyal to them.
Right.
Loyal to his community.
As another example, not athletic, but Kevin Hart, you know, building up his brand and starting 5 different companies under that.
Right.
But all within his friend group, you know, finding strengths within everybody and using that to your advantage, but theirs as well. Because even though they have those strengths, they don't necessarily see them, or they don't know what to do with them. So
Right.
just bringing the best out of people. One thing that you talked about earlier was respecting people enough, and I think that's a very good point, because yeah, we have problems with some people, but we can still respect them, you know.
Mhm.
Respect them, respect their ideas, respect their space. So having enough respect for people to coexist with them, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Coexistence. Yeah, a lot of people don't truthfully know how to coexist efficiently, to a point where it's like you're coexisting like to get a particular goal
Right.
done. Like often like there's like a bunch of bickering or whatever, like you can't really put your differences aside, and that may alter the outcome. Like you may not be putting like your best foot forward because of that.
Most
Think
definitely.
in a utopia, like you put everything aside, you get to work, and then you go about your business. Like,
Yeah. You just talked about goals and getting to that outcome. Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, how would you say you measure success?
how I measure success, unfortunately, is very like
Not unfortunate at all. Let me tell you, we're here to get your perspective and your perspective only.
it's heavily financially based for
Okay.
me. Like if I was like really giving you like just like rapid fire, like how do I like measure like success, it would be like not being dependent on my parents, you know, like great academic grades, basically everything that I want in life I would have, as long as it's realistic. However, when I'm really trying to decipher the question, I can say like, well, success is not, allowing the same mistake to happen over and over without fixing whatever issue it is that you needed to change.
Right.
That's probably something that I've learned like in college. Like failure isn't like,
Failure is acceptable.
what was that?
Failure is acceptable.
Right, failure is acceptable, and it's only really considered failure like if you do like the same thing over and over and over, no changes. Like the definition of insanity.
Right.
Like, so like I would incorporate that like into what success is to me, right? That ability to find or break down what the issue was, move forward, and try to like make things better. But
Got you. I mean, we learn from every experience. But going back to your first point, you said, unfortunately, the way you view success is strictly financial, and if you have everything that you want, then you'll be successful. But what shapes that? Where did you come up with these ideas of what you want?
society,
Let's talk about it.
our capitalistic American society has told me as a black man that basically I should have the freshest kicks, um should be living a particular lifestyle. Even aside from that, like I said, a family of immigrants. Clearly they moved to this country for a better opportunity.
Right.
The better opportunity is, I'm sure, has a lot to do with the ability to be economically and socially mobile. To go from lower class to middle class to higher class, which obviously comes down to finances. So, like that's kind of what has built that foundation for me to think that success is basically or surrounded by like one's finances.
Got you. And of course, you don't have to have the perfect answer to this because it's definitely an on the spot question. But considering that society has shaped the ways that we think and the goals that we set for ourselves, if we were to go against that idea, what do you truly want for yourself? What would you be involved in? What would you do if it all wasn't based on financial stability? Another way to ask the question, what would you do with your life today if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah. That answer would be like, honestly, like to create like the most happiest environment possible around me. Um that's in the sense of like happiness for like other people around me. So like, I guess to pinpoint one thing, like I'd want to be like the greatest architect to build like the greatest house that uses very little fossil fuels or energy that's probably gonna like harm someone's health, that I won't know. I'd love to be in an environment where I can help someone if they're sick. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's a God complex. It's like very hard for me to pinpoint exactly like one particular thing I'd want to do. Like if I could not fail.
Nah, most definitely. That makes sense. It's just so interesting to hear because with the two things that you said, they have nothing to do with what you're doing now or what you study in school and things like that. So it's like, how do we find the balance between what we feel we must do for the sake of financials and then do the things that we want to do for the sake of actually being happy and enjoying life?
I agree with that. One thing I would say though is I've learned like through certain like opportunities that have been granted to me that like I've learned to be happy with certain things. I don't know if that would be considered true happiness or like true acceptance of something, but like for example, I fell in love with like doing work in a lab.
Okay.
If anyone had ever told me, like, let's just say like 5 years ago, like when I was high school, like a high school junior, high school senior, like, yo, yeah, like you would be like at a bench, like not really talking to anybody, just doing work, like over and over and over and over. Like, would you be happy or would you be satisfied with that? Would you consider that to be successful? I'd probably say no. Probably because like my ambition probably was like sky high, or I just had different expectations for myself or the way I would view myself in 25 years time or whatever. But through like other experiences, like I would say that, yeah, that's pretty successful. But that's also because I've learned that everything is almost like a domino effect. Like me doing that, like at a lab bench, might be helping someone. I might not be able to know that person, but I might, let's just say, everyone wants to use this, but a cure for cancer. Like, what if I'm at this lab bench basically by myself working with cells and I just find like some cure for cancer?
Right, most definitely. I think the most important part of that is just the experience. I think that speaks a lot to what we were already talking about. You don't really know what you like until you experience it, but you have to be willing to experience those things, put yourself out there and try those new things, because like you said, you might actually like it, you might have a passion for that and pursue it later in life. But if we're just focused on, what we're assigned in the classroom and what homework we got to do for the next day, we don't really explore much outside of what we set ourselves up to do to achieve that financial stability.
That's true.
But knowing that failure is a possibility, we can't do all those things, how do you stay inspired and motivated every day?
I'm a very goal-oriented person. So I like to set out certain like things. Like right now, like my main thing is like, all right, like let's graduate. Like let's walk in May. So that kind of is the thing that like wakes me up every day. Kind of like, you got to get this done, whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, like honestly, like it's really just like goals. Like I have to set very small goals, something for me to work towards. I'd say I'm a very easily motivated person. So once I have that in my mind, like I'll do everything in my power to work towards that goal. Like I explained previously, whether it's a direct path or I gotta like swivel through some things, like as long as I know or I have an idea of what this end goal or end product should be, I think I'm all set in terms of my trajectory or like where I want to go.
Got you. So just for those people who aren't yet on that path of goal setting, and everybody goal sets in different ways, could you tell us what that looks like for you? You talk about setting short-term goals as well as long-term goals, but how often do you set these goals? How do you evaluate these goals?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of it, I'd honestly say happens, a lot of this goal setting, like this entire process happens, I'd say, in private. For example, for me, I'll be in my bedroom, no laptop out, really, like no video game, no distractions, probably just some music, and I'm just thinking, and I'm like, okay, like I know where you set the goal of, okay, like what's your career aspirations, okay, but then it's time for you to like kind of move your way back a little bit. So like, what are the things that you need in order to be qualified for this job or whatever the end goal is? So then you start to look, okay, well, you need this degree, okay, but before I can get this degree, what else? What will make me qualified for this degree? So it's kind of like looking at the prerequisites for your end goal, and then from there you start off from where you are, and then you're like, okay, well, this semester I'm going to achieve to have a 3.5 GPA that will make me qualified for this grant, and with this grant I can do this. And so that's the way I have to do it. I have to, and it's not something that I write down. I'd say I keep like a memory log of all of this. But that's because of like just the way I am, just I'd say like a motivated individual. But for other people that may have difficulties doing that, I definitely encourage you to reach out to older individuals in the field that you want to be in, or that you've grown comfortable with, whether it's in an academic setting, work setting, and just talking through it, because bouncing ideas off other individuals and talking through your plan is often a very good way of kind of figuring out whether this is going to work, or even writing it down. Is this going to work, or okay, is there anything that I need to adjust? I also did that a little bit in my time as Fairfield as well, so it's something that I definitely encourage.
Gotcha. I was just interested. You talked about the job and what you'll need to be qualified for that job, and then you got into the example of 1 at 3.5, and then it's like, but what do I need to do to get that 3.5? So for me, I make a to-do list every night. It's a little sick, but I know what I need to do for the next day, and it really organizes my day. You know, when I wake up, I can look at my day, look at the breaks in my schedule, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do before then? You know, before we got here, I needed to set up for this interview, do other things for the brand in terms of startup, because that's in a few weeks. So just making those short-term goals for those short-term goals.
Right. I have a question for you, though.
What's
real
up?
quick, as long as it's fine with you.
What's up?
All right. So, you had a plan for today, right?
Right.
Because you had a to-do list. If you weren't able to check off one of those things, so if we weren't able to have this interview today, would today be a failure, or would you have failed to complete this task, or like how would you look at it? What's your mindset with that?
I think in the beginning I would have looked at it as a failure, but now I have so much going on that it's like you really have to take the small wins, you know?
Mm-hmm.
My to-do list was very extensive today, maybe like 7 to 8 things. So if this interview didn't happen, that was only one thing on the list.
Right.
I still prepared for the interview, so by the time the interview did happen, I didn't have to do any extra work necessarily.
Okay.
And then again, it's about finding the gaps in your day. So while I sat here and waited for the interviews to happen, I was putting other things together as well. So the day wouldn't necessarily be a failure. Everything doesn't go according to schedule either, you know.
Right.
That's
That's life.
Exactly, like the schedule doesn't stay the same, so we can't really look at these things as failures because we can't control it necessarily. You know, we have to accept that we can only do so much,
Right.
so, and be okay with doing that much. You know, if at the end of the day you say, "I made the most out of my time," that's a win.
Word.
And even if you didn't make the most out of your time, think about it, and it's like, did I give myself a break that I needed days ago? Not making the most out of my time. So really taking the positives from that. And again, my to-do list doesn't have to be done at the end of the day. Whatever's not done, it rolls over to the next day.
To the next day.
But we're constantly getting things done.
Right.
If it's not written down, I get free time and I'm like, what do I have to do? Do I want to go to the gym? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Then by the time I decide, my time is gone. So really just having that plan before actually doing anything.
Word. Okay.
You talked about graduating soon, you know, wanting that stability and really wanting to, if you could, making a comfortable space that would make everybody else happy. What would you say you want to be remembered for? Big question, I know.
Oh man, what do I want to be remembered for?
It changes all the time too. Like,
yo, I really don't have a solid answer to this question, man. Like, I don't know. I've never thought about what I'd want to be remembered for.
okay, so
I don't know. Like, I'm perfectly content with being remembered as, yeah, like that was like a hard worker. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't know. I feel like there's not. It also depends on like who is remembering me.
right,
You know, like a faculty member might remember me differently than how you might remember me.
all right.
right? But that's just because of our relationship or the relationship that I have with other people. So I think it's also very like the way I want to be remembered or the way I think I will be remembered is different, like based on like who you might be asking.
Most definitely, that's how you're remembered is definitely going to change according to the individual. But I think knowing how we want to be remembered acts as a motivation for a lot of the things that we do. So to step back a little bit and not ask the question of what do you want to be remembered for at the end of your life, but what do you want to be remembered for that after you walk across that stage? You know, you were involved in the Black Student Union. You've done a lot there. Very passionate within that group. So I know there was some sort of motivation in terms of what you were trying to get done before you left.
Yeah, for sure. I always try to I don't know where I've heard this. I was definitely younger when I heard it, but it's always stuck with me. But it was always basically the quote is I'm paraphrasing, but it's like leave the place like you inherited better than the way you found it. Basically, right. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, like in my example, like with Fairfield is like leave Fairfield or leave the Black community of Fairfield better than the way like I received it or right. I walked into it. That was one of, I would say, my goals. Was that achieved? I don't know.
Okay, so
but like you said previously in one of your other answers, sometimes you have to take some of the like smaller victories. So like with that, like maybe I was inspirational to one or two individuals right. that might be a leader when I'm not at Fairfield. I might not ever be able to see it, but maybe I said something to them or I was kind enough to them, accepting of them in whatever manner that helped spark them to kind of continue that cycle right. where they want to leave the community in better hands or in a better situation in the way they found it. So
and I like that as well. You know, before you started answering, I said it changes all the time. You don't really know the impact you have on others.
Yeah.
I started this business just because I felt like there was a problem within the community and people quieting their passions for the sake of money, really. Mm-hmm. Like, I meet a lot of people that they're majoring in things that they don't really want to do. It's just that they know that will make them stable in the future. So really just encouraging people to get started, really get in tune with what they like to do for themselves and make the most out of those experiences. But you talk about leaving places better than you found it. And let's talk about that in terms of you. You know, I'm sure that you're leaving Fairfield a better man than you entered it, but how do you think you can increase your value as you continue out into the real world?
Increase my value? I'd increase my value by simply just being who I am. Like, how do I explain this? Like authentically. You know what I'm saying? Like not trying to be somebody else.
Right.
Cuz then that's not even really my value. Like being myself like authentically. So whether that is being a pleasant person, a hardworking person who has whatever accolades, just being that like tenfold, like when I walk across the stage or when I go on to whatever institution I go on to. I think that's like the way I would see like my value being increased, and hopefully, you know, other people taking light to that.
Gotcha. Final question for you. You know, what does affluence mean to you? You talked about everything being financial early on, you know. Affluence really could be financial for you, and that's okay. I just want to talk about it.
It could be. It could definitely be. like if I'm walking down the street and like, yeah, like what does it mean to be affluent? Like it's probably definitely gonna be wealth related. But being influential also could kind of like piggyback off like the last question you asked. It could be like your value, like the characteristics you carry, like the way you carry yourself can be considered affluential. The way you like I see your questions now, how they kind of all tie together.
You see what we do here?
I see the project. Like for me, like the way like I, for example, would leave somewhere can determine like or help determine like how affluential you are. So okay, I'll answer the question. Definitely has to do with wealth because that's just kind of ingrained in my brain right now.
I mean, so let me just break it down before you answer. You know, by definition, affluence means wealth, right? And by definition, affluential means rich and socially influential. So it came up in our last episode where the statement was wealth is health. And I made the statement that wealth is inspiration. So now where do you leave us?
Can I piggyback on what somebody else said?
Go ahead.
Wealth is definitely health.
Talk about
it. Like wealth is health. The reason I want to like emphasize whoever said that, and kudos to that person, is a healthy individual is an individual whose like body is like you could say physically able, in whatever capacity it's allowed to be.
Right.
Someone who social health is another thing, so can maneuver around the room no matter the demographic.
Right.
Also could do that also goes into the community as well, so that person really won't have any issues, I'd say, like really doing much basic things in life, which I guess can increase your value and can make you inspirational to other people, because a lot of people may not have that level of health or have not reached that level of peace. So yeah, I'd definitely go with health as well. Like time is like a healthy individual is likely probably to like live longer too. Like, so if you really want to get down to like health, or
I mean, you on the medical side of things, so if you want to tell us, like break it down from
time.
that.
I'm like, imagine if you had 1,000 years though. If you had 1,000 years, you'd be probably able to do more things than you could do in 90 years, right? So even if it meant like you needed to be like, I forgot how many hours they say you have to put into being like a master at something.
I think it's 10,000.
Like 10,000, right? So like, all right, we both hoop on Fridays or whatever.
Right.
Right. You only have a certain amount of time, like now, to like work on your jump shot without it like creating an imbalance in your life or your schedule and what you want to do, right? Because you could put up 10,000 shots right now, but you're not going to have time to do interviews, or you're not going to have time with startup, right? Because you have to sacrifice one or the other. But that's because of like the time that you've told yourself that you have in life or in this period of time. Now, if you were supposed to have like unlimited time, right? Like in a perfect world, like unlimited time, or let's just put like a very high time. You had 100 years to put up these shots or whatever, right? And you don't have to worry about anything else. You'll become a master of it.
Right.
And then you could become a master of something else, and then a master of something else, and a master of something else.
I just have a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said in 1,000 years I can do more than I could do in 90 for the sake.
Possibly.
Right.
In terms of like becoming like a master, getting those 10,000 reps up.
Right. But what am I becoming a master of? I'm becoming a master of life according to how society told me I should live it, though.
Mm.
So,
okay.
Do I really want that 1,000 years, or do I want the 90 if I'm subjecting myself to what society tells me? Something to think about. I just wanted
No,
to put
for
it out
sure.
there.
No. Eh, for sure. And I'm happy you said that. Because it definitely makes me think. And I love these conversations. Like, you could bounce ideas off one another. Like, this forces me to think. I may not have a rebuttal for it now. Like, I'm
Right.
probably going to go home, think about it. Like, damn, like, Kwame just said this to me. But honestly, it all depends. Some people are perfectly fine. Like, being what society tells them to be, or
Right.
they haven't thought as far as like, hey, like, let me be my true authentic self. Well, there's some people who I would say think outside the box, which is great. Who, no, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna like be my true self,
Right.
and society's gonna have to accept me for it, the way I am, or not. So be it. Like, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Some people aren't built to do that though.
Makes sense. I just feel like we challenge society with a lot of things, and like the idea that money is the only measure of wealth is one of those ideas that really needs to be challenged.
It should be challenged. It really should be challenged. I have a question for you now. Does money make you happy?
Nah, money doesn't make me happy, and here's why. Right. I also talked about this in the last episode. Money don't make me happy for the sake of I make money in order to give it to others. You know, my car, I pay a car note, I pay insurance, and I got to do all the work. Like if I work 40 hours a week, all my money is going to those bills. So I don't think it really makes me happy because I'm stressing throughout the week to get that money to then repeat the cycle the next month.
Okay. What truly makes you happy then?
That's one of the questions where it's like, what do you want to be remembered for? Where I feel like it changes every week.
Okay.
These interactions right here are I'm starting to realize that these are my sources of happiness. You know, I never thought about podcasting before. I'm actually afraid of the camera, so being here and doing this is really a step for me. But just having these conversations, really hearing the perspectives of different people and causing them to think about these things as well. I've always been the person where I want to find the strengths of my friends and build them up as much as I can. So through the business, I've been trying to find different things that my friends are passionate about that we can tie into the business where they don't always have to just be worried about work. You know, they can do something on the side that makes them happy, and we can all grow together. So community building.
I appreciate the insight into that.
Before we get out of here, though, is there any words of advice that you would like to leave the viewers with?
I mean, I guess at the end of this, all I could really say is be true to who you are, and find what makes you happy. That's definitely something I'm gonna try to do. Like, really try to find or pinpoint like one particular thing that really makes me happy. But I also understand that it's probably gonna be a journey.
For sure.
And for other people, it's probably gonna be a journey as well. But I guess it's a journey worth taking.
Yo, that concludes episode 6.
Peace.